Mm. Ah! Hello, 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 everyone. This is I Am Everything Fresh and Sassy. How are you? I hope all is well with you. I do, mind, body, spirit, and in health. So I'm laughing because. Oh, wait, hold on. How do I turn that down? Hello, 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 everyone. This is I Am Everything Fresh and Sassy. How are you? I hope all is well. Oops, wait a minute. I do, mind, body, spirit, and in health. So I'm laughing because. Oh, wait, hold on. How do I turn that down? Hello, hello. How do I turn it down? This is I Am Everything Fresh and Sassy. How are you? I hope all is well. Oops, wait a minute. I do, mind, body, spirit, and in health. So I'm laughing because. Oh, wait, hold on. How do I turn it down? How do I turn it down? I'm trying to take it out the case, so. Okay, this is a problem. Wait, I got it. I think I got it. How do I turn it down? You know, when I always think I'm ready, I'm not ready. If I break this case, my husband's going to be mad at me. Now my finger's stuck in the case. Ah! I think I got it. How do I turn it down? Okay. Gosh. You know, when I always think I'm ready, I'm not ready. If I break this case, my husband's going to be mad at me. Now my finger's stuck in the case. Ah! I think I got it. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Okay, I was laughing because I see someone, well, I'm not laughing, but I'm happy to see someone I haven't seen in a long time, and that is living the, I hope I say it right, calyxed. If I didn't say that right, please correct me, but I think it says calyxed, living the calyxed life. Happy New Year to you too. It has been a long time. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, it's been a minute. Hold on one second. Okay. So anyway, I hope everyone is doing well, mind, body, spirit, and in health. Oh my goodness, there's 5 people here. Oh my God, we got a full house. 5. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. But anyway, like I said, I hope everyone is well. I forgot, I think, to make the greeting. No, I didn't forget to make the greeting. I think I made it. But if I didn't, let me do it again. This is I Am Everything Fresh and Sassy. How are you? I hope all is well with you. I do. Mind, body, spirit, and in health. So it's K-Leaks. 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 Okay, because I remember the fragrance that a company called Prescriptives used to make, and I used to love that. Oh, it smelled so good. It was clean and it was fresh, and it was also called K-Leaks. But some of us said K-Lixed, and some of us said K-Leaks. So I'm going to use the way that you say it because that's your name and you should know. So, but anyway, it is the end of the Sabbath. It is Saturday. It is 9:36 in the p.m. And oh my goodness, in case you all wanted to know, it is 14 degrees here in Baltimore. In case you wanted to know, it is a balmy 84 degrees in Montego Bay right now. Okay. How do I know? Because I checked. I needed to know because a sister is looking to do something soon because it is just so cold here. And I don't do well. I don't fare well in cold weather. So I'm looking to get myself a little bit of change of scenery. Hold on. See, I came prepared. This time I got my glasses so I can see. Okay. Colleagues. Colleagues. So sorry. Okay. Yes, freezing here. I'm in the DMV as well. Okay. Brown skin. Hey girl, what is up? How are you? Thank you for tuning in. I know, sis, it's so cold. You're way up north, aren't you, brown skin? You're way up north, right? Not quite Alaska, which is where I was born. I was born in Anchorage, Alaska, but I believe you are way up north. I know, right? It did, didn't it? Just like that daggone balloon, right? There's this balloon, and they shot it down. I'm good, hon. How are you? I am well. Thank you for asking. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all being here. I really do. Brown skin and Cullix. I hope I'm saying that right because I hate when people get my name wrong. In case you don't know, my first name is Netherland, like the country. And people often ask me, how did you get a name like that? Well, I'll tell you very quickly. To make a long story longer, I'll tell you. Well, let's see. My mother was 40 when she had me. They thought I was a tumor. She was in her 40s. I was born in 1963, and I was born in Anchorage, Alaska. Now, I was the third baby born in Anchorage, Alaska on January 1st, 1963. I was the third New Year's Day baby. And so when I came along, I had two older brothers. My brothers were, one was in his 20s, and the other one I think was like 17 or something like that. And so my oldest brother asked my mother, could he name me, right? Now, my oldest brother had a girlfriend who was killed in a car accident, and her name was Netherland. So he asked my mother, could he name me after her? And that's how I got the name Netherland. I hated it as a child. People made fun of my name. Oh, there's Neverland. She never knows the land. Little dumb stuff. I'm like, do you realize how dumb you sound when you say that? I used to just stare at people and I'm like, do you really think you just said something prolific there? Because you're like standing in the glow, basking in the glow of your own stupidity. I'm like, do you realize how silly you just sounded? But that's how I got the name Netherlands. A lot of people think I was born there in the Netherlands, but I was not. I was actually born in Anchorage, Alaska, at Elmendorf Air Force Base Hospital. Kids can be so cruel. I know. Kids, right? I was one too. But you know what? When I was like I didn't get mean until, I don't want to say I'm mean, but I didn't get ornery. We'll call it ornery until like I was in high school. And I kind of came into who I was, and I realized that, I let a lot of people pick on me and say things that I didn't have to stand for or tolerate. I didn't realize, I could paste someone in the eye if I wanted to, or paste someone in the mouth if I wanted to. I didn't know that. And kids used to beat me up, and I wouldn't fight back. They would hit me, and I just would be like, what am I supposed to do? I didn't realize, I could do that too. I didn't realize till I was just before I got to high school. I think like the 8th grade, more like the 9th grade, I really realized that, I could have some get back. I could paste a few people in the mouth if I wanted to. If they were talking crazy and sideways out their neck, I could do that. But when I was younger, I didn't know. You know what? The one thing that I regretted coming up was that my parents didn't tell me my parents didn't tell me much of anything. It's like they didn't really talk to me. My mom was a nurse. She was a registered nurse. She took care of premature babies at Old Garfield Hospital in Washington, D.C. She worked at the Washington Hospital Center, and then her last job at a hospital was at Providence Hospital in D.C. And then she started doing private duty, taking care of, private duty patients. And the first patient that my mother took care of was a woman named Mrs. Lewis. And Mrs. Lewis was the eldest resident at the Mayflower Hotel, the longest living resident at the Mayflower Hotel. Now, back then, people lived at the Mayflower and people stayed at the Mayflower, just like a hotel. But Miss Lewis had a whole lot of money. When my mother was taking care of Miss Lewis, I think she was 101. And my mother took care of her at the Mayflower Hotel. And she was the Mayflower's eldest, longest living resident. And my mother took care of her. And then after she left Miss Lewis, my mother went to take care of 2 doctors who were both paraplegics. Can you imagine? No use of their arms, no use of their legs. They were in bed all day. And they were both doctors. One was named Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown was the man. And then his wife was, Dr. Brown was the woman. And she was a paraplegic. And Dr. Rosenbaum was the man. Okay? They kept each other's names. They kept their names, I guess, for business purposes or whatever. But both of them were doctors. And both bedridden. Both paraplegic. Actually, no, I take that back. The woman doctor, Dr. Brown, she was a paraplegic. And then Dr. Rosenbaum got very sick, and then he was bedridden too. And my mother was taking care of both of them. She started out just taking care of Dr. Brown at first. And then something happened to Dr. Rosenbaum, and, she was taking care of both of them. But, she wasn't doing it around the clock by herself. There were other nurses. There were like 3 other nurses, and they had everybody had a shift to come and take care of them. And my mother took care of them for a long, long time. And when my mother passed away, their family made sure that, we were good with, taking care of my mother's wishes and everything. They really respected and cared for my mom a lot. My brother was mentally ill after coming back from Vietnam. And he had fallen off of a truck while he was in Vietnam. This is nothing about this. I wasn't planning to talk about any of this, but I just want to, get it out there and just, it's one of those things that's been kind of in the back of my mind for a while. And sometimes when I just put it out there, I can just put it out there and leave it in somebody else's lap. No, I'm just kidding. But when both of my brothers went to Vietnam, but my eldest brother got lost in Vietnam. And what happened was my mother got a phone call that my brother was missing. They said he had fallen off the back of a truck. Pardon me. And they couldn't find him. And basically they told my mother that he was dead. And she's like, my son's not dead. Y'all need to find my son. And so she would call and, check up to see if they had heard anything, seen anything. And I think after like about 5 days or so, she decided to drive down south. And she went to North Carolina, South Carolina, and was it Tennessee where she found him? Where's Fort Knox? She found him in a Fort Knox hospital. And she went to like 3 or 4 hospitals looking for him. And what happened was he didn't know who he was. When he fell off that truck, he had lost his memory. I guess he had hit his head or something. And when my mother went through the ward, because they had patients, I guess, that didn't know who they were and no one had claimed them and they weren't able to reach out to these people's families for some reason. I don't know. But I thought that when you were in the military, maybe he didn't have his dog tags on him. I don't know why the hospital couldn't reach out to us and tell us, we've got your son here, but he's not able to tell us, where he lives or anything. So anyway, my mother found him at a military hospital in Fort Knox. And I guess it's called Fort Knox, the Fort Knox military base, I guess. I don't know. But she found him there. And when he saw my mother, he told the doctors, that's not my mother. I don't know that woman. I don't know her. And then, so, he stayed there in the hospital for a while. And then when he was, stable enough, they moved him back to D.C. And he continued his treatment here in D.C. But he still wasn't right after coming home from Vietnam, because I remember as a little girl, when I was born, they were in their 20s. So for a while, I didn't even know this brother for a long time because he wasn't at home, because at some point he had to be put into a mental hospital. He was at St. Elizabeth's in Southeast Washington, D.C., which they have since closed down. But he was in a mental hospital because one night I remember my mom called the police and my brother had gotten a butcher knife and had been threatening to kill my mother. My mother believes that there was a whole lot of drugs going on in Vietnam. I mean, that's not conspiracy. That's not anything made up. They gave a lot of the soldiers drugs to cope with what they were seeing, what they were doing. Okay. During that time in Vietnam. So she believes that he was somehow drugged, and this had an impact on his memory or his memory loss and his wanting to be violent and trying to kill my mother. And so she found the butcher knife that was under his bed, and he had been talking about he was going to kill her. And eventually she called the police one night and they came and got him. And I remember the 2 officers came into the house. They said something to him and he started, one had this arm, one had this arm. They had his arms up like this, and he was trying to get away from them. And my mother was crying. My father he was upset. But Yahweh, somebody needs you. Help them, heal them, comfort, and protect them in Yeshua HaMashiach's matchless and mighty name. Amen. But anyway, they were trying to get him out to the car. And that was the last time I saw him up until I was about the age of 10 years old. And my dad said to me, your brother's coming home today. And I'm like, what brother? I knew I had one brother. But I had completely forgotten about that brother who had been taken away by the police that night. And he spent, I think I was about 6 when that happened. And he didn't come back home until I was 10. So he was at St. Elizabeth for about 4.5, 5 years or so. And then he came back home. And I was scared. I was like, I knew that he was in a mental institution. I knew very little about mental institutions, but I knew it wasn't a good place to be. And I was just kind of scared about him coming home. I'm like, is he going to hurt us? Is he going to do something to me? I didn't really remember him, you know. And, you know, he was okay when he got home. He had some issues where he didn't really want to talk to anybody when he came home. But he progressed. He progressed because when he first came home, he wouldn't say anything to anybody. He wouldn't talk to me, my mother, my dad. He was very regimented, like he was in the military still. He would walk out into the hallway, and he would before he went to bed, he would open his bedroom door, step out into the hallway, open his pill bottle, put a pill in it, put it in his mouth, toss his head back, put the top back on, and then he'd walk back into his bedroom and go to bed. This happened every night. And I guess that was a part of his regimen while he was in the mental institution, that he had to show, you know, the nurses or whoever was in charge at the time that he was taking his medicine. He had to step outside of his room and take his pill and then go back to bed or go to bed. So when he first came home, he didn't talk to anybody. He didn't say anything. He ate his dinner. He would eat one big meal every day. I mean, a dinner plate, a charger plate this big. And I'm telling you, food would be falling off the plate. And he would eat that food. I mean, he was just shoveling food in his mouth, And he was big when he first came home, but then he dropped down to like 150 pounds, and he was 6'2", 6'3", and he ate like a horse, but he only ate one meal a day, and he ate at 3 p.m. every day. That's it. That's all. He ate that one meal. That was it. And this was back in the 70s. I guess that's what they call intermittent fasting right now. But my brother was doing it before it was a thing. And he lost a lot of weight because he was big when he came home. But he got better and he started talking to people. He was laughing and joking and having a good time with people. And, you know, he still had his little quirky ways. Like when my mother sold her house, she moved in with us, my husband and my kids. And she would call him and say, could you bring me a carton of milk, you know, or bring me a carton of creamer for my coffee? And as soon as he got to the house, he would hand her the bag with the cream in it, because that's what she would normally ask for, some cream. I'm like, Mom, I'm a block away from the store. I can go to the store and get you some cream, you know, if that's what you need. Or so I would buy the cream, and then she would say, well, I need this something else. But it took me a while, because I'm slow sometimes. It took me a while to understand. She needed to check on him. She needed to know he was okay. So a couple of times a week, she would have him go to the store, buy her something, and come to the house and bring it. She needed to lay her eyes on her firstborn son and make sure that he was okay, right? So it took me a while to figure out that's what she was doing. But what used to make me so angry was that he would come in the door. I would open the door. I say, hey, Herbie, what's up? And he would come in the door, make a beeline for my mother, hand her bag and say, you owe me $2.41. And he would go and get her purse and stand over top of her with her purse until she pulled her wallet out and handed him $2.41. Let me tell y'all something. My brother was fully vested, okay? Fully vested means that you will get all of your benefits from the VA. A lot of times when these soldiers leave the military or they get their honorable discharge or whatever, a lot of times when you see veterans and they're on the side of the road and they're asking for money, it's because the military has somehow decided they don't need full benefits, okay? My mother got an attorney and made sure my brother got full benefits. He got paid for being injured by Agent Orange. If you don't know what Agent Orange is, that was like a nerve gas. and they would use it on, the people they were fighting, and it did some bad things to people, including the soldiers that were over there serving. So he received some type of monthly payout for Agent Orange. He got another monthly payout for something else, plus Social Security, plus disability. My brother would pay his rent 2 months in advance. So in December, he would pay December and February. And I think he would always pay 2 or 3 months in advance. Never behind in his rent, never late in his rent, always on time, always had a new car every 2 or 3 years, always bought my mom a new car every 2 or 3 years. He bought me a car, bought two actually, because the first one, anyway, it's a long story. I don't want to go into that story. But he was well taken, he financially, he was good. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Are you going to stand over your mother? He would go and get her, he would hand her the cream. Then he would go get her pocketbook and say, you owe me $2.41, and stand there and wait for her to hand him his money. You couldn't give him $3. You had to give him $2.41. If you gave him $3, he was going to give you the change back for the difference, okay? But that used to drive me nuts. I'm like, that's your mother. If it wasn't for your mom, you wouldn't be here now. You probably would be, a lot less fortunate, and in a situation like some of these other vets who don't get fully vested. They don't have anybody to fight for them. But, when the mind is not right, you just don't think right sometimes. And it just used to make me so mad that he would demand that $2.40 or whatever, little small amounts of money. And this guy was getting 4 checks a month. Big money, okay? Big money in the bank. But like I said, it took me a while to accept and understand. And then how I really understood just how far off and gone he was. My mother could always tell when something wasn't right and he needed to be seen by the doctor, or his medicines need to be adjusted, or he needed to stay in the hospital. And this one time, my mother said to me, I need to take Herbie to the hospital, but he won't go unless you and Vincent go. Vincent is my firstborn son. She said, he won't go unless you and Vincent come. I said, okay, we'll go. So we get to the hospital, and the doctor, we're sitting in the patient room. We're not in the waiting room. We're in the actual examination room. And the doctor comes in, and he says, so Herbie, how are you doing? How you doing? And he said, I got to get my nephew some help. And he said, well, what seems to be the problem? He said, you see that jewel in the center of his head that keeps glowing? I got to get that removed. The doctor just said, looks like a fine boy to me. He said, but I tell you what, Herbie, I want you to stay here with me for a little while. I just broke down. I got up and left the room and broke down because I did not realize how sick he was. His diagnosis was paranoid schizophrenia with visual and audio, what do they call visual and audio disturbances, I think, where not only did he hear voices, but he saw people that weren't there. And he heard voices that weren't there. And that's when, at that moment, I realized just how sick he was. And then I felt so bad because I was so frustrated with him so often. I didn't realize how sick he was. I didn't know what he was going through. And then, my dad, he was in the Korean War. He was in World War II. He had shrapnel in his belly. And you could feel it. If I touched his belly in certain places, I could feel the shards of metal under his skin. And my dad wasn't right when he came home from the military either, because there were times when I would always have to ask my dad the same thing 5 times over. Dad, can you take me to school? Dad, can you take me to school? And he'd just sit there. And what I didn't realize until I realized was that he was stuck. He was stuck in the Korean War. He was stuck in World War II. He was reliving. He was sitting, you know how you have a flashback, a deja vu, or a deja vu where you feel like you're right in the moment that you were in 20 years ago or 5 years ago, and you feel like, oh, this is happening again. These things were happening to my dad, and he was stuck in deja vu. He was stuck in his memories of what happened in the Korean War and in World War II. I didn't get it until I got it. And I had to figure it out on my own because no one explained it to me, that this is what he was going through. And I used to wonder, why does he not answer me when I'm talking to him? Why do I have to ask him things 5 times? That used to frustrate me to no end. And then I have another brother who was in Vietnam as well. He was affected by the war as well, but his mental instability didn't come until he got back. Well, actually, he was able to keep a job for a while. He worked for NASA. Excuse me, not NASA. He worked for Goddard Space Center. And he was a supervisor. And his office was in, is it Greenbelt, Maryland? Yeah, Greenbelt, Maryland is where Goddard is. And, it's like all 3 of them were just, when they got back, these wars that these veterans, who are on the front lines, and my second brother, the one who he was impacted, but not as severely impacted because he had a desk job. But my brother Herbie was in combat. So he was really affected. My dad was in combat too. That's how he ended up with shrapnel in his belly. And he got shot in his belly twice. So anyway, I don't even know why I went there, but I did. And I just, I don't know why I went there. I don't know what the purpose was of me going there, but I did. I feel better. But yeah. So anyway, let me come and talk to you all about what I'm here to talk to you all about. Let me just get a little sip of tea if you don't mind. Oh, it's cold. Sitting here running my mouth. But anyway. So, this balloon that was floating in the atmosphere, they decided to shoot it down. I'm like, why did they shoot it down? And especially, why did they shoot it down where they shot it down? They waited until it was over South Carolina somewhere before they decided to shoot it down. It was over Montana. Why didn't you shoot it down over Montana? There's plenty of open space in Montana. Why they wait till they got to South Carolina? Why they do that? Why did they wait? Because my thought was, no, don't shoot that thing down. You don't know what might come out of it. What's inside of that balloon, Next thing you know, we locked down again because there was some super pootie tang. You know what I call pootie tang. That 19, it might be a 20 in there this time. And then we locked down again for another year or 2. So I don't know why they shot it down. They should have, I don't know, flown it out to space. If you carry something high enough, it'll freeze, right? Because the higher up in the atmosphere you go, the colder it gets. They could have, I don't know. They could have taken a drone and had that drone pull that thing out to outer space and to be seen no more. They could have done that. I think that, listen, if I was president, that's what I would have done. Okay, keeping my people safe. All right, I would have taken that balloon and I would have gotten a drone and had the drone drag it into outer space, where it would have frozen and broken up into many, many tiny pieces. But instead, they shot at the darn thing, and whatever was in that balloon is floating now down to the planet. But I don't know. I thought that was kind of not such a good decision. But anyway, that's what they had did. But listen, I was watching a channel here on YouTube. It's called Tommy Bites. T-O-M-M. Is it Tommy Bites? Yeah. Tommy is the first word, and then Bites, Bites. And the reason why I spell it out is because sometimes people will refer you to a channel, and if you don't have the proper spelling, you might not be able to find it. So that's why I spelled it. But Tommy Bites was talking about how Amazon is going up on their delivery prices. Look, fine with me. No problem here. I don't order food like that. I feel like I'm like up here like that. Hold on. I don't order food like that because I'm just not a trusting person. I appreciate the fact that people who are delivering food, they've got a job. So that makes me feel good. They've got a job where they can make money and take care of their family, take care of their children. That's great. I love it. However, I'm not that trusting. Before we moved here, there was an Asian restaurant like a couple of blocks away from my house, and there was a Pizza Hut like a couple of blocks away from my house. So sometimes we would order pizza, sometimes we would order Chinese food. But the thing about that is that those people actually worked at the restaurant. You know, they've been somehow vetted. They have been trained. They have an actual employment status with the business that they're delivering with. So I guess that was some kind of comfort to me, but in hindsight really wasn't. But I'm not that trusting. I'm afraid to let somebody bring me some food. I've heard enough bad stories about, someone getting food delivered and there was something in their pizza that looked like cheese but wasn't cheese. It was a little too runny. Okay. I'm not that trusting. I'm not that trusting. And then, oh my gosh, one day, this was right at the very beginning of the Pootie Tang, and somebody was getting a food delivery across the street. The woman that delivered the food carried the food up to the person that they were delivering to. Then she came back down to her car. This woman started coughing, and she coughed so hard I thought I was going to have to call 911. She could not catch her breath. She was like, which is like the whooping cough. You know, when you cough and you're, that's whooping cough, right? It sounded like she had the whooping cough. And I was like, oh my goodness. And that went on for like a whole minute. And I'm like, this lady is out here delivering food and she's coughing like that. I was like, no, nobody's delivering nothing over here. So when I was watching Tommy Bites' channel and she was talking about how Amazon is supposed to be going up on their prices for delivering food, I'm like, they ain't got to worry about me. I love to grocery shop. I love to go to the grocery store. I like to pick out my own food. I love to go to the produce section and look at all the pretty produce. I love picking out my own meats and vegetables. And, now that my dietary needs are very regimented and very limited, I don't spend a whole lot of time in the store. I go to the meat department, I go to the produce department, I go to the dairy department. That's it. I don't go down the cereal aisle. I don't go down where the chips and the candy and the frozen foods are. Now, I will go get a frozen bag of peas. That's the only frozen thing I will buy. Peas. That's it. But other than that, I love going to the grocery store. So they don't have to worry about me. But my thing is this. Prices have really, really gone up. And during a time like this when there's a national emergency, because as far as I still know, I still think they're touting the Pootie Tang as a national emergency, pandemic, whatever you want to call it. But price gouging is not supposed to be allowed. But I mean, look at the prices. Someone said they paid $22 for a dozen of eggs in California. Hold on one second. Okay, where did I leave off on the comments? It's that perfect name for you. You are uniquely you, and it fits. Oh, thank you. I agree. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Living Calyx. Like, Calyx. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you guys. That's so sweet. Yes, that's why I can't do Uber Eats, etc. If I can't go get it, I don't need it. I think I've offered twice and never felt comfortable eating food, even after paying for it. Couldn't even enjoy it all. Ordered. Yeah. Yes, I love to pick out my own food, especially produce. Yeah. Oh, wait. Miss Stop, Drop, and Roll On. Oh, my goodness. Are you still there? Oh, I hope I didn't miss you. Hey, Miss Stop, Drop, and Roll On. I get so excited when I see people I haven't seen in a while. But anyway, yeah, so I enjoy going to the store, picking out my own foods, I enjoy going to the produce. And like I said, as limited as my diet is right now, based on the things that I can or cannot eat, I'm in, I'm out, I'm quick. I enjoy the time that I spend there. I'm in no rush to get out of the store. But I'm not that trusting. I'm just not that trusting. It scares me but like I said, that's somebody who has a job. But here's one thing. I bet retailers didn't count on when they decided to get on board with the NWO and start making all these changes, because I really think, because I saw this on, there's a channel called Redirecting, Redirecting, Redirecting. And there's a video on her channel, I think it's called, Do You Think This Can Happen Here? And this woman is from Europe. I think she's from like London. And she's talking about where she lives and how they are making it so that if you live, you live where you live, right? You're not allowed to go any further than 8 miles away from your home to conduct any type of business. So if you have to go to the doctor, if you have to go to the grocery store, if you have to go, whatever you have to do it within this 8-mile radius. Okay. There are 100 times out of the year where you can go outside of the 8-mile radius, but when you do go out that 8-mile radius, you have to travel a certain way. You have to go onto certain roads. Okay. Let me see if I can find that video. Hold on. Redirecting. Okay, here's her channel. And then videos. It's not that far back. But she's talking about how you can't go out and see. I knew this was coming. When I tell you I knew this was coming, I knew this was coming, where you would only be able to shop in certain areas. That means certain areas, let's just say it the way it is, the neighborhoods that are not as desirable will get the worst food. The most desirable neighborhoods will get the best food, the best services. I knew this was coming before it. I saw this happening 2 years ago. I saw it. When I tell you I saw this happening, I am telling you I saw this happening, but I kept my mouth shut. I have this gift where I see certain things, but I keep my mouth shut because I have lost friends over telling people about things that were going to happen. And then when they happen, they're really mad at me and don't want to talk to me. But I kept my mouth shut. I knew this was coming. I knew this was coming. Now, this is what's happening over in England, okay? It's not here, but she's saying this is what they're planning. Hold on. I want to tell you the exact name of the video so you can see it for yourself. This lady is talking about this is what's happening. Okay, the video is on a channel called Redirecting, and it's called Is This What They Have Planned for the Population? It has 36,000 views, and it was done 3 weeks ago. It's an 8-minute and 54-second video, so you can check that out. But I knew that was coming. Whether it was coming here, I just saw it coming. But anyway, what I was trying to say about the raise in price on delivery, I know that part of the inflationary prices is just greed. It's just greed. A lot of it is just greed. But I think the other reason, the other component as to why they may be raising prices is because when you have people who order food online, order groceries online, that person is no longer coming into the store anymore. So if they're not coming into the store, they're not spending as much, okay? You know how when you say, honey, I'm going down to Sevis's, I'm going to CVS, I'm going to the Safeway, the Giant, Piggly Wiggly, whatever. I'm just going to go get one or two items, and you come home with 30 items. You was going to get one item and you come home with $200 worth of stuff. Okay. When people order stuff online, they order what they need. And the person that goes and picks out their food doesn't say, oh, I bet you she could use some of those. Oh, now they got a sale on if you get 6, you'll get 4 more free. I should probably pick up. That's not how it works. You order your food, you pay for your food, they pick your food up that's on your list, they bring it to you, that's it. And so what I don't think they were counting on was the fact that people, when they don't come into the store, they're not spending as much money. So at the week's end, at the month end, at the year end, retailers have not made as much money as they were making when people were actually physically coming into the store. And so now there's an effort to get people back into the stores. But if I heard her say it right, she said they're raising prices up so that people will come, not redirecting. This was Tommy Bice, and she was saying that they're raising prices to get people back in the store, something like that. I'm like, if you raise prices, people aren't going to come back to the store. They'll find some place. Well, I don't know. But maybe I misheard what she was saying. But in any event, I think retailers were not counting on the losses that they have taken now that people are ordering their groceries and their goods online, because I really believe they want to shut down all the brick and mortars and just have people shopping online. That's going to be it. And I don't want to see that happen because, again, if that happens, people are most likely going to have to shop in their own neighborhoods. They're not going to be able to go outside of their neighborhoods and shop. Or if they are having food delivered, I don't know what someone might do to that food. And that concerns me, that concerns me. If I want to go to the store, I want to go to the store. So, but anyway, that was something I thought was of interest, and I wanted to bring that up. I don't watch any television anymore. I used to watch a lot of Turner Classic Movies, and I have the Turner Classic Movie channel, but I've noticed a pattern in the videos, the movies that they show. And I don't know, maybe I'm just very cynical and I'm either very cynical and or suspicious, or I don't know. On their TCM channel, they have a lineup of movies that will stay on for like 30 days, and then they'll add a new movie every day and take one off. And you'll have a selection of maybe 50, 60 movies or something like that. And some of these titles at some points in some times of the year, it's like they're trying to send a message with an old movie. And I love old movies. I really love old movies. And for a while, that's all I would watch. So I kind of backed off of Turner Classic Movies a little bit, but I still watch because I love old movies. I love the way they dressed and the home, the decor in the homes. And I loved, and I still really do love old movies. But I can't watch movies today. I can't watch these shows like Grey's Anatomy. Now, I never watched Grey's Anatomy once, so I'm just using that because I know that show comes on every week, or maybe it comes on every night at the same time, something like that. A series is what I'm trying to say. I don't watch these series. I don't watch these movies today. It's just too much, too far, gone to the left, too much evil, too much. It's just too much. It's just too much. So I started watching a lot of Nollywood or Nigerian movies about 2 years ago. And then I noticed a whole lot of Nigerian movies were coming to Netflix. And I was excited about that. I was like, oh, wow, this is great. They're putting Nigerian movies, South African movies, Northern African movies on, well, not so much Northern African, but they're putting a lot of Nigerian, South African, Ghanaian movies on Netflix. I was like, oh, this is so good. But then I'm also noticing there's a shift in the content in which is being provided to Netflix as movies and or series. In other words, you need to include this type of activity in your movie if you want it to be on Netflix. If you want us to feature your movie on Netflix, we have to have a certain amount of this kind of activity and a certain amount of this kind of activity. Oh, I know it may not it may not make you look so good. It may not shine you in the best light, but this is what we're going to need from you in order for you to have your movie on Netflix. And so now it's like I really enjoyed watching the Nollywood movies because it was real life stuff. It wasn't all this imaginary, crazy, blood and gory and evil and twisted, demonic stuff. It just wasn't all of that. Nollywood wasn't all of that. But slowly and incrementally, that's where it's going. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I would go to the Nollywood movies because it was like That's where I can find my safe space where, I know what I'm going to see. I'm not going to see anything that I don't want to see. I'm not going to see anything that I'm not accustomed to. So my Nollywood space on Nigeria, my Nollywood space on Netflix has been tainted, and I'm not as comfortable there anymore. And it's like, it's almost a crapshoot what you're going to get, unless you're just watching older Nollywood movies. Now, I know in certain African countries, certain activities are not allowed. Certain things are illegal. Okay, let me just leave that right there. Just leave that right there. But speaking of that, I was watching, what was it, the Hodge twins. And apparently there is, I have lipstick on my teeth. Apparently there was a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, who decided she wanted to come out to her kindergarten children. Listen, if that's what you are, if that's how you live in your life, live your life. But bringing that to a bunch of 5-year-olds, a bunch of 6-year-olds, these kids just stop wetting their pants, okay? And you want to talk to them about your preferences that way? I don't come here and talk to you about what me and my husband do. So why does anybody, especially a teacher, need to go and talk to her students about what happens in her personal life? When I was a little girl, I never remembered my teachers telling us anything about their personal lives, other than that they might have had they had a son, they had a daughter, or my husband or my wife, but that was it. They weren't talking about all this extra. But that's the norm now. And that's not good. 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds should not be their teacher's psychologist, because after she said she told them what was going on, after what I think it was a man who was, it was a man who was dressed as a woman. I don't know if he had the sex change or whatever, but it's none of my business. But anyway, he said, my students then hugged me and told me it was okay. They cheered me up, and I'm like, why? Didn't you have an adult friend that you could go and talk to this about? Why are you messing with these kids like this? But this has been going on for a while. It's unfortunate. I see why a lot of people are homeschooling, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I used to think homeschooling was the worst thing. I always thought, pardon me, I don't know why my nose is stopped up. I've been fine for the last week. I don't know if it's because, I don't know. Maybe it's, I don't know. I don't know why I sound congested, but I am. I was fine. And it's not like my nose is running. Maybe it's nerves why I do that. I don't know. But anyway, I used to think that homeschooling was like the worst thing you could do for a child. I always thought that if you homeschooled a child, they would not be well-rounded. They would not be well socialized. They would not know how to interact with other children or other adults if they didn't go to school with other children. But that couldn't have been further from the truth, especially today. And I really feel bad for these children that are in school today, because they've got all these personalities that they have to deal with. They have, teachers who are like the teacher I was just telling you about, telling his kids about, his personal and intimate life. No, those kids are 5 and 6 years old. They're trying to figure out how to stop wetting the bed, Stop it. But I think that homeschooling is a good thing now because these poor kids today have to deal with so many personalities. They have to deal with all these children whose parents might not be parenting their children in the best way. So they spend most of their time in class, in trouble. The teacher's frustrated with them, the teacher's yelling at them. And I feel bad, especially for these kids who are good students, like my grandbabies, who are good students, but they have to listen to the teacher yell at the bad students all day. And then my grandkids would tell me about how these teachers just yell all day long. They just yell, yell, yell. That, I mean, these kids have got to be suffering some type of PTSD where you have a teacher who all they do is just yell at you all day or yell at your classmates. I mean, you're sitting there, you're doing your work, and then your teacher starts yelling at Johnny, and you're like, you know, it's startling. I feel so bad for these kids. They have to deal with all these different personalities with students. They have to deal with all these different personalities with teachers. There might be a teacher that doesn't like them because their hair is too straight, it's too curly, their skin's too dark, it's too light. I have always said, as long as I have been on YouTube, I have always said, don't have children until you can have children. And of course, hindsight is always 2020. I'm telling people the very thing that I said I wouldn't do to do or not do. But after having been through it, I can say yes, definitely homeschool. If you can, homeschool. If you can't, wait, hold off. Don't have your kids yet. Wait until you can stay home with your children for at least the first 14 years of their life. I'm serious. Okay? Sending them to school, sending them to daycare, you're taking your child and you're saying, here, I want you to be responsible for my child. I want you to teach my child your ways, your ideals, your beliefs. I want you to instill all of that into, because even though those teachers have a curriculum to teach, they're always going to impose something that they believe or that they believe in with these students, these children, our children. And it might not be something that you want them to share or instill with them. So that's why I've been saying for years, don't have children till you can have children. I stayed home with my daughter. My other kids, I put them in daycare. But my daughter, when she got into the second grade, I said, that's it. I'm staying home. My husband told me when we first got married, he did not want me to work. I said, honey, that's a wonderful sentiment, but I believe every able-bodied person should be out working, if not out looking for employment. So I said, I appreciate that, sweetie. I said, but, you know, in today's society, right now, we need to be a two-income home. But when my daughter got into second grade and she needed extra help, I said, no, that's it. That's it. It's okay. I'm staying home. I stayed home. So since the time she was in the second grade, I've been at home. Now, I would take little part-time jobs here and there. If, you know, we wanted to do something or, you know, we needed a little extra money, whatever. I just wanted to get out the house because I'm going to tell you, the first 2 years I stayed home, I was like, I didn't know if I was going to make it. I didn't know if I was going to make it. I wasn't used to being at home like that. So I'd pick up a little part-time job to get some extra money or just to get out the house, you know, and do something. But I was glad to be able to stay home with her and help her, you know, in the ways that she needed help. Because you have to advocate for these children. You have to advocate for them. Because if you don't, who will? If you don't, they will run over top of your children and leave your children behind. I think that's how I got on the topic of my mother and father, because at the beginning of the video, I was talking about how my parents didn't talk to me about much of anything. You know, they didn't tell me a whole lot. When I went, I can remember when I went to kindergarten, when I went to school, I didn't know what school was. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know what school was. They just, oh, that scared me. I did not know what school was. I just remember one day my mother took me to the uniform store up in Bethesda, Maryland. And she picked out this ugly jumper, the uniforms that, Catholic school girls have to wear. This ugly jumper. It had a million pleats. It was navy blue, pine green, white, and a little gold streak through it. I had a tie to wear, a button-up shirt, white knee socks, these ugly, ugly, ugly brown shoes, and a little beanie. And I remember her taking me to that store to get uniforms to wear to school. And then one day I was, and while we're even in the store, I'm like, I never asked her, why are you buying these things? Because I think they're ugly. I don't want to wear this stuff. I think I was crying because I didn't want to wear what she was buying. And she never said, well, this is your uniform. This is for school. And you're going to be learning, and you're going to learn how to do math. And you're going to learn how to spell. And they didn't give me a jump start or any insight as to what was happening. The fact that I was going to be going to school. So I got these uniforms, and one day I'm told to put the uniform on and to come downstairs. I've got this book bag with, everything that I need in there: crayons, pencils, paper, everything, erasers, pencil case, everything. And I'm dropped off and told to line up and to go into this building and to sit down in this classroom. And when I'm sitting in my seat, my hands are to be clasped this way, and I'm to sit this way. When the priest comes into not the bathroom, oh Lord, that's another story. But when the priest comes into the classroom, you say, "Good morning, Father so-and-so." I was going to say the name of the priest, but I'm not going to call his name. Good morning, Father so-and-so. And the